In this video, we are talking day one of the D23 Expo 2022. We're talking the Tiana Bayou adventure. The model was showcased at the on the convention floor. A ton to talk about in regards to that. We're talking Toontown, another model on the convention floor. We're going to talk about Chapek getting booed, and we're also going to talk about this Avengers multiverse e-ticket coming to DCA. There's a lot to talk about, fam. Let's go. Welcome to another episode of OG55. I brought my friend, my producer. Well, you know what? Let's do a proper intro. Hold on one sec. Let's do a proper intro for Mr. Vashkai. Give me one moment.
And now, the man with many titles, bringing you juicy news and info, squeezed fresh right from the grove, Mr. Vashkai.
There he is. There he is. Welcome back.
I do appreciate it, guys. I do appreciate it. I don't want to do my horn too much there. Thank you so much, OG. That is a fantastic intro, and honestly, I am super humbled. I never thought I would have such a fantastic intro, but there you go. You know, hey, you. I mean, I think you heard him right. Mr. Vashkai. Vashkai is the name right there, right down below. You can go ahead and type in the Twitter if you want to follow me. We're pretty close there, pretty close to the 1,000. Like I said, like we've said before on this show, going to be a great little giveaway when that actually happens. So keep them coming in. I think that'll you're gonna want to follow, folks, for sure. And hey, if you like what you see here, you want to follow me on video format? Well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juice, news, and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove. And well, we just saw Brie Larson there at the D23 Expo. She made her appearance for Marvels, so I figure we haven't used it in a while. Why not?
Thank you very much.
There you go. Now I did hear our on-field reporter George actually, amazing contributor to the program. We love him. He's there right now. Apparently, he was in the what is it? The Marvel Lucasfilm 20th Century Fox panel, right? And apparently, when Brie Larson came out on stage, somebody did say thank you very much back on the stage. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty appropriate today. That
is funny. That is very, very funny. Let's dive in. We're talking the parks today. We're into a little bit of Chapek because he got booed, by like 3 people, but we were going to talk about it, But we're going to focus mostly on the parks today, right? And the first thing on the menu, the first item on the menu, is Tiana's Bayou adventure. This is interesting. Now, me and you kind of have different opinions. We do have different opinions on this. I'm going to let you, because you are very passionate about this, and I appreciate that, Dre. And I want to really pick your brain on your kind of like mindset and where you stand on this. Do we have some pictures to share of the model while we kind of talk about this? Okay. Let me go ahead and share.
From George himself, we wanted to go ahead and highlight the gentleman right here before we get his pictures up. You can see here, here's a picture of him with Dusty Sage there at the Mice Chat booth. And he's, like I said, he's having a good time in this one. He's actually dressed up as Bert. And I believe the person he's with, Mindy, who's a great fan of the channel as well. She's dressed up as Mary Poppins. I thought that was pretty cool. But he took some photos for us. And what he came up with was some of these. Okay. Well, okay. Alrighty. Initial thoughts. Honestly, I was scrolling through Twitter because I'm trying to get, all everything that I possibly can out of D23 Expo without actually having been there. That way I can come up with or I can provide for our viewers the most accurate, most all-encompassing information possible, right? I don't want to miss anything for you guys. I don't want to skip over anything or miss the obvious. So I was scrolling through, And initially, I didn't even know what it was. It just looked like a green mound, and I just kept going. I was like, and I scrolled back up. I'm like, that's Splash Mountain. That's what's going to happen to it, or I should say, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, right? Honestly, look, and you guys know me. You know that I'm very weighted, very measured in my analysis. I'm very kind of like I try not to get too emotional about it, everything. Obviously, it's Disney, so there's a lot of emotions tied up to it. But I try to, kind of pull myself away from that and just try to give you kind of a reasoned, logical analysis that both has its pros and its cons. I gotta be honest. Initial reaction: this looks like trash. I gotta be honest with you. It just doesn't look very good. Clearly, I don't think the budget is nearly as maybe robust as Christine Way Sons McCarthy would say, as we had been led to believe initially. It looked like a pretty interesting transformation, at least what they had, the first piece of artwork that they had put out, which, by the way, they were quick to splash over everything that they possibly could. If you look at that original Disney Parks blog announcement, they just don't have it at the top of the article, but they have it attached to the names of the Imagineers they have working on this project. And now it looks like we pivoted away from that almost completely into what is essentially Splash Mountain Light. That's Lite, with a water tower. That's what it is. And now I'm real nervous because I have been hearing leading up to this that not great things. And we actually went over it a little bit with Ashton. Right when we had her on the show, which, by the way, fantastic guest, getting a lot of great feedback.
Awesome.
So
we love Ashton. Hopefully we can get her back on because she was a lot of fun. Check out that video, everybody watching. She was fun.
A lot of fun. And but I had been hearing back from kind of my sources and kind of what they've been putting out, that the attraction was heading into a direction that was a little bit like, ooh, I'm not sure. First of all, it's going to be a sequel attraction, right? And it's a sequel attraction because there were problems with the initial film, even back when it first came out, I believe in like 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Look, I saw it in theaters. I thought it was actually a pretty decent film. And I was, the 2D animation is wonderful. It's lovely. The songs are really good. But obviously there was a problem with that version. And the problem with that version was this was Disney's first Black Princess. However, she was a frog most of the time. That was the main criticism against it. And so I think the Imagineers, knowing that criticism was out there, wanted to pivot away from that almost immediately. Even though they had told us, or they had represented to us, that wasn't necessarily going to be the case. You can see in this artwork here, and we'll get to that, the original artwork. Not the greatest representation of it, but you could see that Tiana is in her blue gown at the start of that film, right? You can see Mama Odie's tree, coming off of what was previously Chickapin Hill. You can see there was a different representation of all these things when they initially announced it to what it is today. And honestly, I think my interpretation of these series of events was correct. I think they wanted to get a piece of art out there. They wanted to get ahead of what had happened in Minnesota, right? And, in the very tumultuous time that was the summer of 2020, and they wanted to get ahead of that story. They wanted to get ahead of that press. They wanted to get ahead of that PR. And they put this out there, rushed it out, in a very unorthodox way, from what I understand from my sources inside Disney and how the Disney Parks blog produces updates. Very unorthodox. And they rushed it. And, as that Park Place and some others have talked about, when you attempt to do those kind of things for PR, for those optics, some people call it virtue signal, some people call it getting ahead of the story, you get yourself caught up in things that, in ways that you didn't necessarily anticipate. And there are consequences from those actions. like I said, they saddled themselves with this IP, an IP that I don't think necessarily let's say checked all the boxes for Imagineering, and so they pivoted away in the form of a sequel attraction. Well, when you do a sequel attraction, you don't necessarily have those songs that we talked about with the film, right? You don't necessarily have those characters that were featured in the film, like Ray and Dr. Facilier, and we have heard no mention of those particular characters, which also leads me to believe that those characters are not even going to be featured. You have problems there with Splash Mountain in particular, because it's a mountain and Louisiana doesn't necessarily have any elevation to speak of. I think they were really in a bind as to what that theme was ultimately going to be, with it being in a Bayou setting and in a Louisiana setting, and now I thought it was a joke. Honestly, I believe Walt Disney World Pro or WW Pro was the first one to kind of come forward with this information that they're going to actually use the salt mine type setting for it. I was like, there's no way. A salt mine. I mean, that's crazy. A salt mine is where you punish people, right? And when you're talking about a salt mine as run by slaves, or as operated by slaves, I should say, you're talking about brutal, horrific conditions. I mean, this is, obviously you would not want to be a slave at all at this time of the time of the South where slavery existed. But I mean, the salt mine is like where you do not want to end up. I mean, just horrific, brutal working conditions and so forth. And this is what you're going to base this on. You're going to put this at Disneyland, and to the point where, if you look at that art, again, see, but this is how Disney used to reference salt mines. It was a bad place to be headed. Let's say this is that famous scene in Pinocchio's Daring Journey over there at Disneyland, where he turned to a donkey and you're heading to the salt mine. Again, I mean, it used to be a bad place, but if you look at that artwork, Scott Gustin did some analysis, did some investigating, and apparently the Mama Odie's boat and that kind of whole concept that we saw with the initial concept that was released, apparently, I had kind of heard or surmised that tree structure there, that was going to be a hard implementation, because that structure was just never designed for it originally back in when it was constructed in 1989. It just wasn't. Yeah, it's too heavy, right? So I was like, well, what are they going to do? How are they going to solve that problem? Well, they didn't. And apparently the reason they gave Scott Gustin was, well, it wasn't consistent with our salt mine story. What?
Yeah. I mean, they couldn't. Yeah, and that's what they're going to say. Because they're not going to be like, you know what, fam, it costs too much. They're never going to admit that. They're never. Because they would have to literally rebuild the mountain to support that new tree. Not only a tree, but a boat in the tree. I mean, you would have to strip this entire mountain down to like the steel beams and completely rebuild this thing to support that kind of structure. It was, and you said it, to your credit, Ray, it's never going to happen. Now, I do have to admit, when I saw this, the first thing I thought of, and my Knott's people are going to hate me, but it looks like the Knott's ride. I gotta be
Timber
honest.
Mountain log ride. Yep.
It looks like the Knott's ride. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. You're not. It's. There's no distinct character anymore. There's nothing to really differentiate it from this concept from this completed concept that you're seeing in the form of Timber Mountain log ride to the Splash Mountain redo. There's no distinctive quality to separate it from that. And I thought the Imagineers were pretty brilliant in how they used Chickapin Hill to kind of like, okay, this is kind of an ominous or foreboding attraction. It references the actual plot line from the film itself, right? And but it gives it that kind of distinct character that separates it from other flume rides that had come before it. Most notably, right across the way in Buena Park, and in the form of Knott's Berry Farm.
Right. No, and look. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, sir.
No. Go ahead. I'm just getting started.
And here's the thing, and this is kind of like Dre and I disagree on this, not 100%, because I do agree with him. I do think that some of the character was taken away when you took away that big stump, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, maybe where we disagree is I don't think it looks terrible. I don't think it's trash. I think that basically there are elements of this mountain I think that look pretty decent. If you go back to the model real quick, Dre, I want to kind of show the okay, if you see in the foreground, I don't know if there's maybe another shot of that foreground ground level.
We have some other photos of which to pull from.
I kind of that might be a good one. Let's try that one. That might be a good one. Okay, so there we go. Perfect. Okay, see where the log is and they're passing by? I kind of dig, like you can see like in the foreground from that log that the people are sitting in. Yep. The stump, the tree in the water, the lily pads. This is cool to me. And I know people are probably going, what the fuck is OG time? Why is that cool? Because it's New Orleans and it sort of reminds me honestly of like Pirates of the Caribbean. When that first scene when you just launch off of you get in the boat and you go, right? And that real quiet scene with the fireflies and all that feels to me like a very Pirates kind of moment with that kind of scenery, the foliage, very swampy. I kind of dig that. I got to be completely honest. I kind of dig that because it does feel very New Orleans, very Southern. The tower doesn't bother me so much. The problem with the tower is a tiara on the top of the tower. I think that's a little much. Look, we see towers like this all over Disneyland. I mean, we see it, I think, on the railroad. Was it twice? There's
actually.
There's one actually, ironically enough, in New Orleans Square. There's another one in Mickey's Toontown.
I think is the Mickey's Toontown one still there?
Is it? Maybe, I don't know. I haven't really been over there, and it's been walled off.
It's been there. Yeah.
But it's been there. It has a giant M with a Mickey on there.
Right.
So these water towers are kind of a thing at Disneyland. This doesn't really bother me. But yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to say this looks like trash. But I wouldn't also say, I think that, okay, it's not trash, but at the same time, I feel like some of the character has been taken away. I do think that the kind of the silhouette of the mountain has been greatly diminished. I don't know if I would have gone with the water tower as kind of like the new icon. Maybe have the tree or Mama Odie's tree with the boat where the water tower is. Maybe if I was the lead Imagineer or whatever, that maybe I would have done that. Put the tree there. If you can't put it on the mountain, have it next to the mountain, right? I mean, it's kind of a compromise. So there are creative things on this mountain that I'm like, not the greatest. There's things on it though that I do like. I love how lush it looks. It looks much more green and there's flowers and it's much more vibrant than the current Splash Mountain is, to be honest. So for me, it's a little bit more of a mixed bag. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. But I'm telling you, I think I'm kind of in the minority because I think I see a lot of fans, at least the diehard fans in our circles, they're not too happy with it.
Well, they didn't even paint the mountain. It's still the Georgian red clay that it's had since 1989. You would have thought they would have gone with a browner aesthetic or something with a little bit more a different pigmentation to it, simply to reflect the kind of Louisiana Bayou setting. They didn't even do that. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, they've added some plants, which is fantastic. But I mean, that's the bulk of what they did. They're going to remove Chickapin Hill there. I'm going to mound that over and then put this water tower in there. Put in some plants. Call it a day. I there's not even that much of a replacement for the briar patch. Now, I do agree with you that kind of swampy setting right there, I think does do what I think they want to do, but it's a very weird juxtaposition next to this mountain. I don't think they necessarily got that 100% there. I know where they were going, and it's a pretty good. It's a decent implementation, but then you get the water tower there. I mean, the water tower is just nonsensical to me for a couple of reasons. One is, and I'll give all credit to the world to Theme Park Wizard for this, because he was the one that came up with it. He was like, well, wait a minute. What's the water tower there for? what water isn't necessarily collecting, and it's like, oh, that's a kind of an interesting thought process there. But it's like, well, why is the advertisement even there? Why are you advertising in the middle of a abandoned bayou, essentially? Do you necessarily see any advertisement signs in the bayou and the swamps of Florida or the swamps of Louisiana? No. It's a weird kind of thing. And then the tiara, really? It just looks laughable. Let me get a close-up shot of that.
But here's the thing, too. I don't like the tiara. But here's the thing, too. Okay. Wizard, theme park wizard is not wrong. He's not wrong. But he's thinking of it from a very much of a fanboy kind of mindset. None of the normies, nobody from the general public is going to go that deep with it.
But I agree with you, OG, but they're expecting that you go this deep with it, with the kind of intricate story that they're crafting, with the whole Avery salt mine and everything, and the Tabasco kind of undercurrent there, or reference to it in the form of, like, I guess the origination of Tabasco sauce was a group of, I believe, ex-slaves who were looking to support themselves, actually took over the salt mine that they had maybe once worked, and that was kind of the creation for Tabasco sauce. It's actually a pretty interesting story, but this is now being translated into this attraction, and is apparently pretty intricate and deep. They're expecting us to work within this framework, to think about it in this level, and it doesn't hold up.
Well, they should go into it more of a generalized thing. Because, like, for example, perfect example of that would be like Big Thunder Mountain, right? Because if you look at a real train, real trains aren't built like that around the mountain. They don't curve like that. I mean, if you dive deep into Big Thunder, a lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense. But they don't really get into a story, though. It's basically just you're in a train, you're going around a mountain in the west, southwest, I assume. So there's not a whole lot of like story. It's more, Big Thunder is very much an experienced attraction. If they go into this one with more of that mindset, where it's a salt mine for her, like maybe whatever they're doing for her restaurant franchise, whatever that thing is, that's fine. But you can't get, and this is the problem with Imagineering now. And this is what does make me nervous, is that they do tend to get bogged down into these stories. They don't need to do that. Just have the food theme. It's a salt mine or a water treatment facility thing or whatever it could be, and just have it be an experience. Don't get too bogged down, Imagineering, into the little tiny details on the attraction itself. The backstory, at the end of the day, the backstory they give in the press release doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. I remember Toontown had a backstory too, that Walt Disney built Disneyland around Toontown, and it was always there, but no one remembers that anymore. These backstories that they release with the press releases don't really matter. As long as they don't put it in the ride, I think we're good. As long as in the ride, it's a generalized kind of approach. It's a Big Thunder approach. It's kind of an overall experience approach. I think we're good. If they get bogged down in the details when you're on the log and you're sitting there having to like really think about, okay, now we're doing this because of this, and X, Y, and Z, that becomes a problem, in my opinion.
They're already there, unfortunately, OG, because look, they say employee-owned Tiana's Foods, established 1927. Okay, this is the story that we're talking about a prominent feature as part of this exterior that you can see both on the ride and off, right, from right here. What is Tiana's Foods? Well, if you look at the explainer here, Princess expands palace into a business empire. Following the success of Tiana's Palace, Tiana continued to grow her business with Tiana Foods, an employee-owned cooperative. She combined her talents with those of locals to transform an aging salt mine and build a beloved brand that bolstered neighboring communities. I mean,
but that's the press release story, though. Is that going to be represented in the ride, though?
That's what I'm saying. Tiana's Foods is. That's what this is.
Right, but I mean, like not like a reference on a thing. I'm saying like more like explained to us, like through dialogue and story. Right? Is that going to be like a thing? You think
it'll probably be in the queue? It'll probably be in the queue or in the pre-show or experienced early on. I mean, if you look at this photo right here, they're welcoming you. Let's see. The celebration of family and friends of New Orleans.
Now, is this just to give proper credit? Is this from that Park Place, by the way?
So this is that Park Place. Yeah, let's go ahead and give proper credit.
Yeah, let me go ahead and put that on here because I just want to make sure. Because
of course, this is that Park Place, and I believe they're referencing Scott Guston's photos. So just to be clear, that's kind of where this credit lies, and they give proper credit as well. But I mean, they're referencing it right there, that this is going to be a celebration of this new business franchise empire. And the story goes is that everybody's kind of coming together in order to make this a reality. Because I believe there was a press release, not a press release, but a Disney Parks blog update where they go into like a little bit of the story, and it's the all of this kind of this local community, which was referenced in that little spiel there, this local community coming together and doing something together. And I think it's in service to this kind of Tiana's food storyline. I believe that's the kind of the overarching narrative of this whole thing here.
Now, let me ask you a question, because and this is actually another water tower at the Disneyland Resort.
Sure.
And I just thought about this, but
yeah.
And this is kind of my point. And I don't know if I'm it's hard for me to kind of articulate what I'm trying to say, but like, for example, with this water tower over in Radiator Springs Racers, right? Mm-hmm. It mentions Stanley's Oasis.
Yes.
It's on the water tower in the queue.
Right.
But is it an integral part to the story once you're on the ride? I
would say that's placemaking. Right.
Could the food thing be a placemaker too, though, or no?
It's going to be a big part of the story. That's a storytelling device with that Tiana's Foods. Whereas I would say, I mean, both are in service to the overall story that Imagineering is trying to tell, right? But I think this one is very kind of a subtle kind of reference there, right? Where the propping, like you said in Big Thunder, represents the story of like I would guess like the surrounding narrative of like time, place, where you're at, so forth. And I think this is consistent with that. Whereas this is a story point here. This is very much integral to the narrative by which this attraction is going to be, sharing with you, essentially. And this is all kind of going to my biggest fear with this attraction, which is there's a level of expectation when you say Princess and the Frog, when you feature Tiana. I think a lot of people were thinking that they were going to get a kind of Tony Baxter has called it before, a kind of book report version of the movie, right? They were
like the Fantasyland dark rides, essentially.
The Fantasyland dark rides, right?
And that's what our friend Ashton said. Remember,
yes.
you broke the news to her. You broke her heart.
Like I did, and I still feel bad over that. To be honest with you, because I saw this woman's dreams get crushed right in front of me. For our audience to unfortunately enjoy, but that's kind of what happened there.
Yeah,
that's why I asked it, because that's what I'm concerned about. Most concerned about is people are going to wait in this queue. They're going to wait for this attraction, expecting a Princess and the Frog attraction, and it's going to be it's really about Tiana's corporate empire.
Yeah, that is the corporate empire thing is a little weird.
It's a little weird, right?
That's a little weird.
So people are going to be, expecting Ray the Firefly. They're going to be expecting Dr. Facilier. They're going to be expecting, Louis playing his trumpet there, and how he wants to go ahead and play in the band. And they're you're expecting the kind of the narrative structure that you saw in the movie, and that has not been represented at all in any of what has been released, even before the expo, and now to put a finer point on it with what they've shared at the expo.
Yeah, no, it's wild. It's wild. Comment down below. I know you all have opinions on this, because this has been really the talk of the expo now for a couple of days.
It has.
So comment down below with your opinions on this, because this is pretty interesting.
Look, and a lot of people are taking this as, hey, the budget it's just not there. And to be honest, I don't even think they have the budget to do a model, because there's evidence to suggest that they just use the former Splash Mountain model that they may have had in the archives or whatever. So if you see, I had it. Let me see if I can find it. Sorry. If there are some parts of the model, and I think I showed it earlier, I just can't find it right now. Yeah, here we go. That's Brer Rabbit's face on that log.
Right.
This is from the old model. That's what this is from. They didn't have enough money to do a model, and we're thinking that they're going to transform this attraction into something that's truly original and not just a just complete derivative of what was there before. I am not necessarily confident at all. I mean, even this photo. Can you pick out whose Tiana is in this photo, just like that?
I mean, I can just because she's standing next to Naveen, the guy, the dude. I think his name was Naveen. That's
And if Naveen wasn't there, could you?
Yeah. I mean, that's her, right? Right there in the front, like right next to him. Yeah,
I think it is. I honestly don't know, because they're doing a kind of a very different, unique version of this Tiana character that we have been very familiar with for the last 10 plus years, I guess.
We'll see how it turns out. It's fascinating. I mean, it really is. It's fascinating. I'm kind of a wait and see. I don't know. Because look, I heard a lot of the same kind of critiques with Mission Breakout. It was like for like 2 years or whatever it was from the day it got announced until the thing opened. It was done on the cheap. This was a slapped on thing. The outside's ugly. And it turned out to be one of the best things they've done in a long time.
Okay.
So it's hard to judge free. You know what I'm saying?
I've been thinking about that a lot lately too. Honestly, because that is I think the overlay that we both are most familiar with, let's say, right? That happened, and honestly, it was one of the inspirations for this entire channel existing. So that one is definitely close to my heart, close to our hearts. Right. Okay, so it's like, hey, man, I have sympathy for that attraction. Couple things. One is Tower of Terror. I think was viewed as kind of the lesser of the two versions.
Oh yeah.
You know, domestically, right? It just doesn't compare to Florida's.
Right.
Moreover, I think it did need some type of a refresh of some kind. Would I have overlaid the Guardians of the Galaxy on it? Maybe I wouldn't have, to be quite honest with you.
I wouldn't have.
But it surpassed expectations and became something that was beloved in its own right, right? Whereas Splash Mountain, that's got, I mean, 1989. Over 30 years of love, and it's kind of this it kind of has this very passionate fan base around it. A lot of people's memories are attached to it, and a lot of people have argued about which definitive version of this attraction actually exists, because it exists in one of our parks, in either Walt Disney World or Disneyland, because it is so kind of beloved, and it was so successful that even Tokyo, who doesn't necessarily copy a whole lot, they took it, they did their own version of it. You have audio animatronics that I'm hearing. I keep hearing this. The audio animatronic number at Disneyland is very, very high. I believe it's anywhere between 60 to 80, maybe even more. And a lot of the reasons for that is because those were taken from America Sings, from the 1975 bicentennial attraction that was over in Tomorrowland to replace Carousel of Progress. And so the Imagineers, Bruce Gordon, Tony Baxter, and a lot of those second-gen Imagineers really loved those original audio-animatronic pieces that were part of that attraction. One, to preserve Mark Davis, his work, his legacy, and put them into Splash Mountain. I'm hearing that a lot of those aren't going to be there. I'm hearing that we're going to get maybe around a dozen, 2 dozen if we're lucky, audio-animatronics. So we're scaling back in that aspect. I think the expectation is not necessarily aligned with people's general expectation of what this attraction is going to be, what should be. As I pointed out with Ashton, unfortunately, there is that level of expectation, and I don't think it's going to necessarily meet it. In Tower of Terror's case, right? That whole thing was painted and redone. Now, again, some people have argued about how well that execution is, and I can definitely see where they're coming from. But hey, they painted the whole thing and they added prop and elements. they're not repainting this. Apparently, it's still going to be Georgia red clay.
Yeah, but yeah, as far as the model goes.
As far as the model goes.
Yeah. I wouldn't be 100% on that, though, just because it's kind of like concept art. I think sometimes that does change.
Well, I mean, once you get to the model stage, at least historically, you're pretty far along. But I will go ahead. I'll reserve judgment until we see the final product, for sure. I do think there will be at least some rehab that goes into the exterior. Maybe that includes repaint, and maybe they change their perspective a little bit on it. We'll see. But it's still Splash Mountain Light. It doesn't have a unique identity. The unique character of the mountain has now been cut off, and now it looks like Timber Mountain Logred, as you astutely pointed out. We have a nonsensical water tower that's been placed in there, and if you could show my screen real fast, I do think this is kind of the best kind of look of it. Right? Actually, I was going back and forth with George saying, does it look better in the day? Does it look better at night? No, I think it does look better at night. And it does kind of really bring out that kind of Pirates of the Caribbean Bayou quality that you talked about before. I think very, very well, at least in that initial act right there. It looks a little Pandora-ish, a little bit. It's very, very blue. Drop. Right? How is that going to necessarily go with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge? Star Wars Galaxy's Edge kind of has a kind of a blue aesthetic at night to kind of differentiate itself from the surrounding areas. This is kind of flow into that. We'll see what the differences that they bring out and stuff like that. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. If they're going cheap here, I think they're going cheap inside. That's all I'm saying.
Fair point. Fair point. And this is why I love having you, Andre, because that's one of the big things with this channel, man. I really, really love having various viewpoints, and we agree on a lot, but sometimes we don't. Like in this case, we don't agree, and I think that's fantastic. It makes for, I think, a much more interesting conversation overall. And
I think so.
This was a fascinating discussion about this because I think there's a lot to be had here. We're gonna move on to Toontown, but everyone watching at home, comment below because I know there's a lot of passion around this thing. I mean, comment with what you think about it.
Yeah.
Where you stand? Do you hate it? Do you love it? Or are you kind of in the middle, good and bad? Comment down below because we really do want to hear from you. This is an interesting thing going on over at Splash Mountain. So,
and we will be following this up. I think
absolutely
we will be following this up. I don't want to put anything too
because tomorrow is the park panel, so that could change everything.
Right. Tomorrow's the park panel, and once you get inside, hey, I could be completely wrong. It could be like, hey, you know what? We're not going to spend a lot of money on the outside because we're going to spend mega bucks on the inside. It could be that. It could absolutely be that, and I could be completely wrong here. So I definitely want to go ahead and do a follow-up after that. We're going to see about times and dates, but we're definitely going to do that for sure. We want some reactions to not just this, but overall to various other parts of the panel and what they bring out. So what should the next thing be on the agenda?
Let's do Toontown. I thought because that was the next big thing. That was the next big model at the expo. Let's do Toontown. Right. And this is, I think, a little less controversial.
I think so.
Let's go ahead and check out.
Yes.
The main. So do you have like the main? They have like an overview of the whole thing. Do you have one that kind of shows?
Let me see if I can go ahead and find that.
Yes. Okay. Let's zoom into that because that kind of shows the new attraction.
Okay.
And the area around Runaway Railway. We'll kind of zoom into that a little bit if we can.
I'm not sure if I can. Okay.
Or that's good right there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That's about as close as we're gonna get.
That's cool. That's cool.
Sorry.
This looks, in my opinion, I think this looks fantastic. I love the cobblestone. Sorry, Showcase. I know our buddy Showcase hates bricks and cobblestone. I love what they did here with the cobblestone. Love it. I think it looks fantastic.
The brickwork actually looks pretty nice. It looks like they're going with the same brickwork pattern that they've done already for the entrance into Toontown, right? Because I believe, I believe it was last winter, right, where they added the kind of brick pavers into the main entrance and exit into Toontown. And I believe they're going with that same pattern here, and it actually looks pretty nice right here. And I was looking at the concept art and kind of comparing, and looks like this is pretty accurate, to be honest with you. You got the 4 trees in the forecourt here. It looks like they did keep some architectural pieces from before, maybe repainted them, rebranded them, as I think you astutely pointed out over the phone. They're not going to be the same kind of restaurants or eateries represented as before. They're going to kind of redo them, and one's going to have a kind of a service window, whereas the other is going to have an ordering window, and they're changing some stuff around in this area. They're repainting a couple of things in this area, and I think it looks overall pretty good. My only 2 things with this, though, I do have 2 reservations. So in the concept artwork for Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway, which I think I can bring up, the El Capitan Theater artwork. Let's see. El Capitan. Well, okay, before I get to that, you could see where the gas station was and now it's going to be like, I think, Pluto's Farmers Market or something like that.
Yeah.
It still has the kind of gas station architecture, but it's just like a completely different thing now. That's a little strange, don't you think?
It kind of, I don't know. It has an overhang and a sign. I think you can, with putting in, once you put in like the big crates full of snacks and fruits, and I think it looked very markety, but that's all subjective. Yeah, that's all subjective.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think that doesn't really bother me too much. I like how they also added the road in there. It's no longer the trolley. There's no trolley tracks. I think actually the road kind of creates more of a, I don't know, like more of a kind of an urban atmosphere, which is, I think, the original, like kind of the original idea for this back end of Toontown to be more of a downtown. Mm-hmm. And that road with the striping and all down the middle and all that, I think that kind of creates much more of an urban setting. I don't know. I really dig that. That's a little change I would have never thought would have made a difference, but it kind of does, surprisingly enough.
I do appreciate those differences. The track needing to go, the Jolly Trolley track, that absolutely needing to go. And I think that's one of the things that, I believe we were brainstorming ideas of what we'd want from a kind of a new Toontown, and I think that's one of the things that I said was like, you got to get rid of the Jolly Trolley track. It's got to go, and you got to put in maybe I was saying like medians with trees and stuff like that, and it looks like they will do areas for trees, which is good. It's something that Toontown desperately needs for sure. But one of the things that concerns me is, in the model, in the concept art that they previously released, you could see that there are kind of marquee lights, and the marquee looks a little bit different, and it looks much more theater-y, whereas the model that they have now doesn't feature any of that. It doesn't feature any of the lights and so forth. And you might be thinking, maybe the model doesn't get that hyper detailed. And yes, that's what I initially thought. But if you zoom in really closely, there are lights hanging in these trees. So clearly there's a level of detail represented here that, maybe doesn't reflect the marquee lights and so forth that we were kind of once promised. I don't know. We'll see. I know they're kind of on a kind of a green energy kick right now, and reducing lights and air conditioning and green grass and other things, right? To kind of conservate a little bit more. But I don't know, that was a little bit. I don't know. I'm a little concerned about that. Hopefully, we do get some of the things represented in the previous artwork, because I do think it looks really cool.
Yeah, I think the popcorn lighting, it would be fantastic. I don't know. Kind of like with the Splash model. I don't think these models are, and I could be wrong, in terms of like past Disney attraction models, I'd have to dive in a little deeper and really research it. But I don't know if they're always 100% indicative of what we get. I think there might be details that are added or left out, but that would be I would agree with you on that. I think that would be disappointing if we got, if they eliminated the popcorn lighting. I think that adds a lot. It definitely adds more of a movie theater, old school theater kind of vibe. I think that's fantastic.
Trying to find the trying to find I should have organized better. Yeah, I do agree with you. I think it would be kind of disappointing if they didn't actually go through with that. We'll see. Like you said, there could be details just not represented in the model that, it's like, well, we're going to feature it anyway, but this is just for kind of a preliminary shot or overview to give people an idea. It's coming. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of...
And when the model also has the background going way higher than it will in real life too. So it's kind of, not 100% accurate.
Yeah, so some people said that some people were saying that the scale of the El Capitan Theater was a little bit out of proportion. Do you think that's accurate, or?
Compared to what, like the rest of the
rest of the...
I can't tell. I mean, if it is, it's not enough to really... You have in real cities things that are bigger than other things. I don't see it off scale. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really see that. I mean, is that what you're seeing? That's off scale compared to the other buildings? It
looks a little bigger, but not. I don't think it'll be distractingly so. We'll see. I mean, again, some people were saying that. We're really going to have to see this in scale because I think that's when those issues would be most profound. But if we're not seeing it here, I don't expect to see it there. We'll see. Yeah,
and I gotta say, only Disney do fans go into this deep. I mean, like, no one nitpicks stuff like this, like with any other company. I think it looks good. I don't know, but I think that some of it, I don't know, some of it could be a little better. But I think overall, I think it's pretty, decent.
Yeah, let me see if I can open this in a new tab, and then I can go ahead and zoom in. You see? We're learning, fam. We're learning together. So this is the kind of overview for the other side of Toontown, which was, I think, the more interesting side, because we knew that this was going to be transformed to a pretty significant degree. And, well, there it is. It looks like they're going to go with the kind of artificial turf, that they've been using throughout the resort here. It looks like they're going to be doing two different flavors, one on one side of the street, one on the other. That's going to be interesting to see. But I think that's going to be good because looks like this will be used. It's going to be like a play area, and it's going to be highly traversed. So this is probably going to be a smart move here. You also have the kind of new fountain that they talked about here.
Yeah, and they actually moved it, right? Because wasn't it supposed to be where the trolley station was, which would actually be across the street, if I'm not mistaken? I thought it was going to be where the trolley station was, but I guess they moved it over there by the park.
You make a good point about this. I did think it was a little bit differently placed than I was initially expecting. So I think you're right about this, Soji. I think they did move it. My question, though, is they kind of moved it. What is it? That would be south, right? They would move it south of its location. Well, that's kind of the main entrance and exit, ingress, egress artery, right?
Right.
So that's a kind of interesting move there. I wonder what the thought process there was.
That is. And then Goofy's house, I still don't know what that's going to be. It obviously looks different, but I don't know what kind of attraction that's going to be.
Well, they're saying it's kind of like an interactive... Let me see here. Sorry. They're saying it's kind of an interactive candy factory.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which I thought was really interesting. I think that... So, I was actually making a point about this. Usually, the... kind of maquettes of people featured in these models really don't give it much attention to, right? Because it's like, it's just, they're just representing the scales and everything. That's kind of what their purpose is there for, and how they expect people to interact with these areas. But on that note, I noticed within this model a lot of guests in wheelchairs. Now, not to disparage anybody in wheelchairs at all. I just found it very interesting. There was about 5 or 6 placements of people in wheelchairs throughout this. And I was like, oh, that's a really kind of interesting thing that they're trying to get across here. That it is going to be kind of wheelchair accessible, and that a wider range of guests have the opportunity to experience these things. I thought that was really interesting, and I guess they're making a point that guests with sensory conditions or kids with sensory conditions, right? Guests with special needs or kids with special needs will be able to interact with these areas as much as any of the other kids or guests featured in these areas. And I will say that has been kind of, Donald's boat, for example, right? Donald's boat previously didn't have an elevator. You could not physically go up into the upper decks of that kind of play area if you were wheelchair bound. So
Yeah.
I will give them credit. It's like, okay, well, there's some thought to this. There's some, they've definitely looked at it from, I think, a very all encompassing or very inclusive view, and I think that's good, especially one of this, an area of this type. But this area that we're working at here, yeah, I don't know what Goofy's house is really going to be all about. I think we're going to learn more of that at the Parks panel. Maybe they may go into that. Maybe they go into the story of what's going on there. But yeah, there is this piece of concept art, and I should have found it before, but suffice to say, there's this piece of concept artwork that actually shows the interior space, and they say it's going to be like a candy factory. Yes.
Okay, I didn't see that one. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
See if I can find it for you here, actually. Now that we're talking about it.
I think overall, I'm personally. I mean, every fan, it's all subjective. For me personally, I'm overall pretty happy with this Toontown thing. I mean, there are things in it that some better than others, what have you. But overall, this is pretty cool. Okay. There. Yeah, that's pretty nice. That's much nicer than what it was before, which is basically a giant bouncy house, like a quinceañera, kind of like a kid's birthday party bouncy house thing, right? before.
And I think and apparently there was an injury there, and that was that. But I guess there will be softer surfaces or whatever that kids can, I'm guessing interact with in playful ways. But it's going to be like this kind of pseudo candy factory. It's a very interesting thing. I wonder what the thought process there was, and I believe they're going to have interactive elements that will have kids take part in making that candy and stuff. So, maybe you have like an oven, or maybe you have like a kind of a cutter or cracker or whatever to crack the candy, package the candy, whatever, and along those stations, that's where you can actually interact with this whole thing. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me, and I don't know. It's pretty creative. I mean, it wouldn't be something I would come up with, but there you go.
Well, and the thing with Toontown is that it's been kind of like in defunct mode for a long time. The Goofy House thing has been empty for a while. The boat has been empty for a while.
Yeah.
This stuff has the Chippendale ball pit has been gone a long time. This reimagining was really needed. I mean, look, every new change they make here isn't going to be like the best thing ever, but I think that at least it adds life where there was no life before. At least now, we have a Goofy's house that you can actually go inside. At least now there'll be some activity in front of the boat. At least now we'll have stuff that actually works. It was so needed. This land was really falling apart for the longest time. And this is really kind of when you walk in now, the whole thing will get a fresh coat of paint. It'll be vibrant. Things are alive again. It really is. And look, this is from a land that we just thought 3-4 years ago wasn't even going to be here. It was going to be Star Wars expansion.
That's
it's
true.
Wild. It's wild.
That's very true, OG. And I'll say this: I think this redo of this land, or this reimagining of this land, is somewhat modest. But I think they are hitting the crucial elements. I think with you, they're going to give it a repaint, right? They're gonna re-envision certain spaces that have been defunct for quite some time, which have desperately needed something, in order to rehab them for kind of a modern generation, and doing stuff that I think this land has needed for a while. Got to remove the jolly trolley tracks. You got to remove what is it, the kind of, what is it, like the kind of park space that was adjacent to Goofy's bounce house before, that was really never utilized and used. I think we could do something with that, and they are, thankfully. And Donald's house hasn't really been much to speak of, which I will say, this is kind of one of those maybe value Imagineering things, right? They're keeping the house, but they're kind of like closing it off.
Yeah.
And now
it's the
there's
front
going to be
of it. That's the play area now.
That's the play area. Yeah, it's going to be kind of a splash pad, if you will.
And that might be value Imagineering, but it also might be the point you've touched upon earlier with the kids in the wheelchairs. If they can't access it, maybe they feel like it's kind of unfair. So might as well bring it down to ground level so all the kids can kind of enjoy it. And it's not just like,
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. For me, I would have removed it, or maybe like cracked it in half, or done something, because it's like I used to go. I used to be able to go in there. Now I can't. At least for me, at least from my standpoint, I guess that was the like you said. I mean, I guess that was the smart move as it relates to those issues. Kind of weird though. It's just like a little I don't know. I would have necessarily not gone in this direction, but we knew something was coming here, right? Because we saw some aerial photography where the kind of lake or pseudo pond that was there was filled in, and we were like, okay, something's going on here. And I had made the point, okay, maybe they're going to do a kind of soft textured area, rubberized area, but represent the pond, right? Through a use of textures and color and so forth, and it looks like they are absolutely doing that. They got some lilies in front of there. Yeah, this is definitely kind of I think a soft kind of play area for kids, and it's going to be a splash zone. So if you look very, very closely, you can actually see streams of water coming out of the boat and stuff like that. It's going to be able to wet kids and stuff, which in Toontown, not a bad idea, because it's
a bad idea.
Very hot there in the summer.
Yeah, do we have a picture of the signage for the Gadget Go Coaster? Do you have that on deck?
Let me see if I can find it, because that was the other thing too that was noteworthy.
We called that one like to a T. We called that one like months ago. And if you don't, it's all good. We can even just.
I might not. Yeah, it might deny me. But the coaster signage is here.
Yeah.
And I think it was you, OG. I'm gonna give you the credit on this one, because you were very quick to point out what might happen here, and it turns out it is. So, let me see. Go ahead. Go ahead and set us up here. I'll try to find it on my end.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, what we were saying months ago was that they got rid of the Chippendale treehouse, right? That they bulldozed that. The ball pit's been gone for years. We're fresh off the heels of a very successful Chippendale Rescue Rangers movie that was released on Disney Plus. They're gonna turn this ride into an overall Chippendale ride, maybe even just an overall Rescue Rangers ride. And sure enough, that's what they're doing. It's Chippendale's Gadget Coaster, which is kind of a weird name. It's kind of a weird name because Gadget is the name of their friend, so it kind of throws you off for a second, right? It's like, okay, it's a little awkward, but basically they're doing what we said they would do. It's just an overall Chippendale coaster now. So there'll probably be a little more imagery of Chippendale, like in the loading area, something like that. Maybe it'll just be Chippendale. Maybe it'll be in their Rescue Ranger form. Who knows? But that's what they're doing. And honestly, that's a very smart move, I think, because you did lose the treehouse. So you might as well just bring Chippendale into the coaster. That's already kind of themed to their franchise anyway. So it just makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. And I don't know. I don't think we're going to see much change though, like structurally in regards to the coaster itself. You're still going to see like kind of like that nuts and bolts kind of theming, I think, all the way through it. But at the end of the day, we definitely called it. Chip and Dale.
We called it. It's Chip.
You're on mute.
Am I?
You're on mute.
I'm on mute.
Oh, there you go. No, you're good now. You're good.
Okay.
Maybe it was my headset. Okay, you're good now.
Sorry about that. Well, we called it. It was, I mean, you called it for sure. Chip and Dale's gadget coaster. Now, I didn't quite call it the gadget. I thought the gadget would have remained off there, but
Weird.
That's what they're kind of going with. Like you said, it throws you off a little bit because, as you astutely pointed out, that's the name of their friend. It's kind of including this kind of prior branding, or at least name, but we're rebranding it. I don't know. It's a little. I don't know. Oh, you got it.
I found it. This is WDWNT. That's the signage right there. It's Chip and Dale Gadget Coaster. So it's basically, I think it's just basically the same ride. New paint scheme, probably just some Chip and Dale iconography, imagery in the load area. Nothing major. It didn't really need to be major. Personally, I wish it would have turned into like a black and white, like Oswald coaster or something really crazy. But they went with Chip and Dale, which was the safe bet, which I kind of figured they would.
So, yeah, I know a lot of people were concerned that coaster was going away entirely. Yeah. I never thought that. I was like, I think they're going to keep that. They're going to keep the capacity around, right? And it's kind of a little coaster, you know. It may have been a little bit too popular when it was just 2 attractions, right? With Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin and Gadgets Go Coaster, but now that's going to be part of 3. That kind of changes some things. I never thought it was going away, and we saw some aerial photos of scaffolding around it, and I was like, okay, it's not going away because why would you put up scaffolding? Yeah,
right.
Traditionally, if you've ever seen coasters be removed from these other parks, they don't do it like that. So I was like, okay, it's staying. Looks like the repainting and everything. And so it'll, I think all of Toontown will look very, very nice. I think it will, there's a new lease on life for what you've said. I mean, what you pointed out before. This land, I mean, a lot of people didn't think was going to be here, at this time period, and yet it is, and it's getting a whole new look and a whole new refresh. I think it's great. Now, the only thing that we're missing here, out of all these things, we need a bypass. We need a connective artery between, or connective path between Toontown and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. That's the only thing we're missing.
They got to do it. They got to do it. Maybe once they expand Galaxy's Edge and it brings it a little closer to the border of the back of Toontown, maybe they'll do that then. Right. It's coming eventually, I think. Maybe not this time around, but eventually I think it's going to happen.
I think that was one of the reasons why they removed the Chip and Dale tree and ball pit area.
Right.
I think they're getting themselves in a position where it'll either open when this land opens, or like you said, when there's a new expansion for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and that kind of expansion space that they do have for that purpose. When it gets a little bit closer, now you can go ahead and you can connect those 2 lands together. But it's absolutely coming. I mean, hopefully it comes when this land opens, but I can just tell you, folks, when you have 2 big e-tickets, or the 2 biggest new attractions that Disneyland has to offer in these 2 respective lands here, Rise of Resistance being Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway being in Toontown, people are going to want to go between them.
Yeah.
And how they're going to do that? Well, I mean, at this point, the only way is to go out of those lands and through Fantasyland. And I'm telling you, Fantasyland, especially that area between Storybook Land and Teacups, it's brutal now. Brutal. It's going to be even worse if they don't connect these 2 pieces on the back end there. So we'll see. I'm trying to remain optimistic on that point. It's eventually coming for sure. It's just, will it come this round? I think is the big question.
Yep, 100%. And we got two more things. The last kind of park thing is this Avengers E-ticket multiverse attraction that this was a surprising thing about this announcement. It was like out the gate. Like Bob Chapek came out and said, hey, Avengers Campus is expanding. And well, actually, you know what? I have a deadline. Let me go ahead and pull this deadline article up real quick.
Like a deadline article?
Yeah, because this deadline article, they got a great quote from Chapes.
Okay.
Which I'll go ahead and pull this up real quick. Let me see if I can find it. Give me just a second, everybody. Because this was very interesting. Okay, here we go. And we're going to be featuring Chapes with a full beard right now.
Jebediah Chapek is what I call him, man. He looking pretty good. He's looking pretty good. It gives him character. It gives him, it's a softness that I don't think he had before, and he's rocking it pretty well. I like it. The beard looks good on him.
I dig it. Okay, so it says here. Let me see here. Okay, so it says here, quote, the Marvel team continues to expand its cinematic universe, and Avengers Campus is going to grow right along with it, Chapek said. Quote, so today, I'm excited to announce that the Avengers Campus at Disney's California Adventure is going deeper into the multiverse. And then it goes on to continue to do that. We are expanding Avengers Campus, and the heart of this new area, emphasize of this new area, will be a sensational new attraction. Now, this is the interesting thing about this, is that he really does emphasize this is not just a new ride. They're expanding the campus, and there will be a new area where this ride will reside. Right. And that kind of surprised me, because when I first read the headline, I thought, okay, we're getting the e-ticket. And I thought they would just put it right there next to Mission Breakout and call it a day. It sounds like there's going to be more actual land expansion. Now, who knows if he's being fast and loose with the linguistics. I think you made a great point on the phone about that, actually, where it's like, is it going to be the e-ticket with like just a courtyard in the front? Is that what he's considering as like, a new land expansion? Or, what I'm saying? I don't really know, but that's interesting, because behind Mission Breakout, I don't know if there's enough room for the e-ticket and a bunch of expanded area to like roam around too. It seems like it's a sizable chunk for sure, but for all that he described, I don't know if that'll all fit, but who knows? We don't even know what ride it'll be, so I guess it's hard to say.
So, couple things. I wouldn't hang on every word Chapek says. I understand that his script and everything is very meticulous, right? That they are very careful with their words. I understand. I wouldn't hang on every single word though, because I think Chapek might be trying to hype it up as being more than what it is, which is just an attraction, I think is what this is. I don't necessarily buy into this, we're going to have a whole new area, because if they did, that's kind of, I don't know, man. I mean, that's going to eat into your attraction space.
Well, yeah, or it eats into existing space in the theme park, because then you have to start looking at Hollywoodland. Okay, so if it's not going to go behind Mission Breakout, is this new area gonna cut into a whole huge chunk of it, Hollywoodland? Are they going to bulldoze the Hyperion? Are they going to bulldoze the animation building? Are they going in that direction? Nope. I don't think they are, but that would be a bold move. They don't really have the room though behind Mission Breakout, which is where we all believe that this ride will go, to add the big boxy show building and an area. So it's interesting. I think you're right. At the end of the day, it'll probably just be the e-ticket, and there'll be a little bit in the front, and they'll call it,
we have the concept art that they released for this specific announcement, and it's basically Avengers Campus as we know it, as we have known it this entire time. They do highlight that purple area back there, and I think that's where it's going. And the description that they include in this tweet, and I believe a little bit in the Bob Chapek quote where he says villains, a whole multiverse of villains. Okay. It says with a third with a third attraction with a brand new story that will bring guests into battle alongside their favorite superheroes. That's the Avengers E ticket. That's what that is, you know, and they still have that Quinjet featured, which was going to be a prominent story plot device within this attraction. Clearly, they haven't gotten rid of it. I think it's the e-ticket. This is setting up for the e-ticket. Now, we don't know if, in fact, they'll maintain the form of what that e-ticket was. Right? Could take on a different form. That could have been Value Imagineered as well. I don't think so, though. My feeling is look, doesn't necessarily make sense to spend a ton of money on Toontown, right? And while we would like for a lot of money to be spent on Tiana's Bayou Adventure, you know, I mean, it doesn't necessarily add capacity to the theme park, so it doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense to spend just a ton of money on Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We'll see. Again, we'll see. But if you're going to spend money on anything, probably going to be this, right?
Yeah.
DCA needs a new e-ticket or new mega attraction. I don't think Spider-Man Web Slingers was necessarily that attraction to speak of when the land debut, but California Adventure absolutely needs one. It's Marvel, which is still their creme de la creme property, right? It's still huge for them, and this will be a huge inflection point for Marvel's representation inside any of these parks. This is one that they can transfer around the world, right? So Hong Kong was getting the Avengers E ticket. Paris can still get it. You know, it's like, this is it. This is the one you spend on, and I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to do.
Well, and even on the even on the value end of it for for the company, like in terms of spending money, most of the money on the R&D has already been spent for this thing. I mean, it was pretty far along in that developmental process already.
True.
And I think you're right. I think it'll be that e-ticket. I think the sticking point for this attraction a few years ago was that it revolved heavily around Wakanda and Black Panther. Well, Chadwick unfortunately passed away pretty suddenly a couple years ago, and that kind of put like a wrench in the gears, right?
It did.
So I think what'll ultimately happen, it'll be the same ride, the same jetpack thing that you get ejected out of the Quinjet, all that good stuff, but it'll be like they mentioned, what Chapes even mentioned, where it'll be more multiverse focused. Now, the multiverse thing is brilliant on a few levels. Number one, it's more relevant to current MCU, which is great. Yes. It's also brilliant though, because you can swap that out for, like, we have locals here in California, in Anaheim, right? We have a lot of locals who want, like a fresh experience more frequently.
Yes.
Well, if you have a multiverse, anybody can come through that portal. Yep. You have a new Disney Plus show. Okay, Moon Knight, the season 2 of Moon Knight. Okay, you have Moon Knight go through that portal to promote season 2. Nova or Wanda or She-Hulk or whoever can go through that portal at any given time, refreshing that attraction and constantly making it new for people. It could be a marketing tool for Burbank. We've already seen a desire and an execution really from Disney in constantly integrating the synergy in the land. Like we see every new Disney Plus show that comes out, they got the walk around character. The multiverse is a great device for this land to constantly bring newness in there. And it makes sense. It's the multiverse. Anyone can go through that portal. It could be a DC character. It doesn't even matter. And it really, at the end of the day,
let's not go that far.
Zazzy won't approve that. But I'm just saying, if they, in the overall scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. It's an easy way to kind of bypass the story and add whatever you want is basically what I'm saying. And I think that makes financial sense. I think it's good for locals. I think it's good for fans. So that would be my guess. The e-ticket Quinjet, but with the multiverse story, they're replacing that with the instead of the Wakanda thing is where my money is at right now.
Right, and I think that's why we haven't seen any artwork bringing that up again, because I do think it is visually going in a different direction and narratively as well. I think they viewed your previous video, OG, where you said do the multiverse, right? And that's what they're doing. They're doing the multiverse, and like you said, they want that flexibility. I think this was always going to be a screen-based attraction, but with the multiverse, you now have this built-in narrative concept, right? This built-in story beat that you can use to, inject any character that you possibly want,
right?
So I think this is. I think this is what this is going to be all about. Again, we'll see the panels tomorrow. I'm sure we'll get a lot more details there. I could be wrong. I could be, hey, maybe they cut back on this whole thing and maybe it's going to be Star Tours 2.0. I don't know. Right?
Oh God, I hope not.
I hope not.
I mean, no disrespect to Star Tours, but we already have a Star Tours. We already have a Star Tours level D ticket with Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, we have the simulator-based attractions, right? We have the Soarin', we have Star Tours, right? They've done the Iron Man. Right. Come on. Marvel needs a big one. Marvel needs a big win here. I understand we just got Cosmic Rewind, but people want to fight alongside the Avengers. We need a big one here. This is it. Hopefully it comes to fruition.
Well, and I have to be honest, when he made that announcement, it kind of made the expo for me. I was kind of like, you know what? Cool. I love DCA. I'm always rooting for DCA. I'm like, that's like my park because it's the underdog story. It's just more exciting, right? Mm-hmm. Disneyland's the A+ student. I've said it a million times. It's a little boring. They always get the new thing. When he announced that DCA is getting that Avengers E ticket, I was like, okay, the expo, anything now is just gravy. I'm a proud papa. My DCA got the E ticket. I'm good. Now, all they have to do is deliver tomorrow with something decent, and I'll be really happy. I'll be really happy.
This expo, and even on the show floor, it's been a lot of, to be honest, it's been a lot of like, okay, we know we're getting that, right? Like, or it's just been bringing concepts that we know we were getting to fruition in the form of models and so forth. There really hasn't been that much new. When I heard that, I was with you, OG. I was like, oh man, I think this is it right here. Now, with the caveat being that the language has changed a little bit surrounding this whole thing, we'll see if it was actually going to be the e-ticket that we kind of, first laid our eyes on back in 2019, or if it's taken another form. We'll see. Again, expectations, let's just put them in check, right? But all things look good right now. Things look good.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And our last and final topic, we're going to talk Bob Chapek.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to talk Bob Chapek. Now, this was fascinating. This was kind of reported on all the, well, not really the mainstream media. Even Deadline didn't mention this, by the way, which is actually brought up to me by our friend Alia, because Deadline for like. Basically ever since Chapek took the job, have been writing all kinds of hit pieces on him because he's not really like super pro theater. And it's like they didn't mention in that article from Deadline from the expo that Chapek got booed. I'm like, if Deadline's not reporting on it, it wasn't that resounding of a boo. Well, we'll let you at home decide. Because we got the video. We
got two videos here, and we always want to give credit. So this is coming from TMMYLPS. There's something in there probably. We'll play the first one. You tell us. Here we go.
Play it like, because it's kind of short. I think it's only like a few seconds. Sure. Well, actually, what is it, 43 seconds? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll go back.
Yeah, go back. Like do twice. Just because you guys, we got to really listen. We got to really listen to this because this is interesting.
Thank you so much, and let's give another big round of applause to the Disney on Broadway cast of Lion King, Aladdin, and Frozen.
Okay, one more time.
Well, thank you so much, and let's give another big round of applause to the Disney on Broadway cast of Lion King, Aladdin, and Frozen.
All right, now I'll play this another video just so that you have a little bit,
different angles.
Different angles, different part. hey, if that one was doctored, maybe this one wouldn't be. And we're going to go ahead and give credit. Carly Wiesel right here. This is the one. Oh, come on. Don't tell me I lost it. Okay, I got it. But to say, I was like, don't tell me. Okay, Carly Wiesel. Here we go.
Here we go.
Right there. I think it's I didn't say anything on any of our videos, but I remember telling OG before this that I was pretty sure a booing was going to happen, just because it's... Look, listen, I'm a Disney fan myself, so I can't necessarily, just besmirch everybody and, paint with a too broad a brush. Disney fans, man. Sometimes they just can't help themselves, right? They're a very passionate fan base. They're very, kind of emotionally driven fan base, and sometimes that emotion comes out. And sometimes it comes out in ways that we don't necessarily like. And I thought, D23 Expo with this kind of fandom, I thought there was a likelihood that there was going to be some kind of booing at play. Now, I had forgotten that the Legend Panels is hosted by the CEO, but I was thinking that he was going to only make appearances at the studio panels, where it's a very kind of highly controlled environment, let's say, right?
Yeah.
At least in terms of coverage. So I thought, okay, we're probably going to have disparate reports, right? Some people are going to say there wasn't booing. Some people were going to say there was. Apparently, anybody who was there is saying that there was booing, right? And while it's not necessarily prominent in that video that we played, I think the previous one showed a little bit more, like you could hear a little bit more.
They were like, yeah.
But it's kind of mixed in there, right? So, and I kind of thought that's how it was going to go, and yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't, like, here's the thing, like, you read these headlines, oh, Chapek gets booed, and I'm expecting, like, when I hear this, I'm expecting, like, just a resounding, the crowd is just boo, yes. Boo. It's really not that. It's like 4 or 5 people in the crowd going boo, boo. I mean, you really have to listen to this stuff to even make it out.
Right.
And that's the thing, too. This is the thing that drives me nuts. You literally paid a ticket. You literally paid, essentially, Chapek to go boo him. Oh, take that, Chapek. Yeah, you really showed him, huh? You gave him money so you can sit there and boo him? Like, he doesn't give a shit about your boo. And there were, I don't know. For me, it was kind of stupid, number one. I think it's a bad look for fans. Look, you don't make Chapek look bad when you do that. It makes the fandom look bad. They already think the fandom is nuts. They do. Because of a lot of the stuff. If you ever watched the Imagineering story on Disney Plus, Kim Irvine gets into it about the threats that she received and all kinds of crazy stuff over the addition of the IP in Small World. Right. Fandom. This makes us look bad as a community, and it's a detriment to the fandom. And look, I don't want. Chapek is already an introverted guy. He's not out there. He's not a natural extrovert like a Bob Iger. So it takes a lot for a guy like him, I think, to get out there in the first place, right? I don't want this guy to get harassed and heckled every time he gets out in public. So then he never comes out. So we have him in the bunker all the time. I don't want that. The booing doesn't accomplish anything. He's not going to lower your Magic Key pass. He's not going to give you more reservations because 4 people in the audience booed. It accomplishes nothing. It's not effective. If you really want to send Chapek a message, then stop renewing your Magic Key, or don't buy the merch, or don't get Genie Plus. But nobody wants to give up that stuff. They want to do petty, immature, childish crap like this in the audience, and boom, shame on you. I completely condemn it.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Let me listen to this real fast when they leave the stage here. Do we hear anything more?
Hello, Disney fans, and welcome to D23 Expo 2022.
Okay,
It sure
pretty good.
feels great to be back with all of you.
I don't hear anything there. So it looks like it was just front loaded there. Look, I think it's petty. I wouldn't do it. I mean, it accomplishes nothing. It embarrasses the entire community. Honestly, it's a bad look. There's a certain professionalism. There's a certain decorum that you maintain when you're at these public events.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. It's embarrassing.
And
It's embarrassing to all of us, honestly.
yeah, and we want them to take us seriously. So
Yes.
when we do complain about stuff, they're like, okay, they respect us and you want them to listen to you. And when you do stuff like this, you completely kind of what's the word for it?
You undercut.
You undercut.
Yeah.
Exactly it. That's exactly what it is. And it's there's so many other ways fans like to get the message across. And the number one thing is voting with your wallet. But again, no one wants to ever do that. Everyone wants to just keep handing him his money. They even did it in this case, which I mentioned. It's hilarious. You literally bought a ticket, which basically benefits Bob Chapek, because this event, this D23, by the way, sold out faster than in 2019.
Yeah. So
y'all lined up in droves even faster than you did before to give this man your money so you can boo him. You think he cares about your boo? Come on.
It's a weird
you just
thing.
look like a jackass from the audience.
I would, like I said, I would have done it because it's I mean, if you look, this is okay. It's you're buying a ticket to D23 Expo, Disney 23, right? It's Bob Chapek's Disney. That's what you bought the ticket for. You knew that's what you're getting. You knew that you might see him there, and you react like this. I don't know, man. I just
disappointing.
It's disappointing.
You know what, Chapek? I think that if you're watching, man, Chapek, if you're watching this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you can take a little bit of advice from my favorite comedian, Cat Williams, and that advice goes a little something like this. Here we go. A little advice, Chapek, from Mr. Cat Williams.
You gotta be grateful. You need haters. What the fuck is you complaining about? What the fuck do you think a hater's job is? To fucking hate. So let them motherfuckers do their goddamn job.
There you go. That's all I can say about that. Let them do their goddamn job. Let them hate.
That's something. Okay, well now we are completely demonetized and we're age restricted now. Fantastic. But hey, no, Cat Williams is right though. I mean, let them hate. That's what they're gonna do. I wouldn't let this affect you in terms of what you're doing, right? Both for, against, whatever. Stay the course. I think it's tough because Disney's kind of in survival mode right now. Really, honestly, they're in this kind of point in which they're recovering, right? And they're collecting, kind of this kind of revenue growth in order to pay off debts and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So we're not in necessarily thrive mode. And when we're in thrive mode, that's when we get big capital expenditures. That's when we get big investments. That's when people get really, really excited. And we've been in this mode for so long that I think the fandom, morale's kind of down, and people kind of have their what is it? The people that they blame for that and all that kind of stuff, and they feel it's Chapek. Okay, I get it. But as we get further and further away from the devastating effects in 2020, and as we kind of build on these projects and this revenue growth and so forth, and as they invest more and more, I think the disposition regarding Chapek will change. Maybe not entirely, but change for the better as we kind of get settled in here more with this new kind of administration and what they want. Just stay the course. Stay the course. Keep doing what you're doing. I think it'll work itself out. There are problems. I have problems with him. I understand. I get it. Don't boo him, crowd. Don't boo him, fam. That's wrong. That's wrong. Now I know people who are watching this show wouldn't do that.
No, 100%.
Because ours, like I have said before, ours is our fandom, our viewers. Let's say they're cut above.
Well, yeah, and like I even said before, there wasn't that many people doing it. I mean, there were a handful doing this. Because you really have to listen in all those videos. You really have to listen to even make it out. And I understand there's stuff going on. There's music. There's people also cheering and clapping on top of it. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't a resounding. So yeah, this is definitely the minority. These are a few people in the audience that thought that they could stick it to Chapek.
The applause was kind of light.
Yeah,
I think that's for sure. He's not everybody's cup of tea, and
no one's super
enthusiastic.
No one is super enthused about Bob.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'll be fair to the guy, but I'm not like Team Chapek necessarily. But I'm going to give the guy a fair shot, and he's the guy flying my plane. What I mean by that is he's running the Walt Disney Company, so I'm going to root for that guy. I'm going to do everything I can to want to in terms of feedback, to the company and things like that. I want them to know what we want and for them to be better and do a better job.
Yes.
It comes from a more constructive place. This is kind of like bald man bad. Just everything he does is bad. He just sucks. I can't get on board with that. But I'm not like enthused though. Like this guy is not my favorite at all. Like he's not, there were a lot of other people I probably would have chosen way before him. Mind you, everybody at home, your boy Bob Iger is the one who picked him, by the way. Okay. So the guy that you all love, well, that's who picked him.
That's the guy. That's the guy. Look, he wouldn't have been my choice. I wouldn't have selected him for the role. But he, like I've said before, and I was saying to some people that we know and others, right? He's the guy we have right now, and where the company is right now, he's probably the best person for that job. Maybe not the guy in 5 years.
Yeah,
when we're back into thriving mode, right? When we're past these kind of very bad economic conditions that we're facing that we've talked about in the show before. With inflation, stuff like that, cost of living, all that. But for right now, as the facts exist around us, as they are, as the economic realities are what they are, he's the guy, and I think he is the best guy for this role. It might not be incredible, amazing, but I think we'll still have a company by the end of it, which is the most important thing that a CEO 100%. Can do.
100%. Thank you, brother, so much for coming on today, talking some D23 Expo. There is a lot. I can't even believe day one is full of stuff that we as fans can get really passionate about, whether it's passionate in a good way, whether it's passionate in a mad way, or whether it's passionate in an indifferent. But there's so much there to kind of chew on, which is fascinating. And it's only day one. There's only day one. Now, day two, which was today, not as exciting, but there was some stuff. But
there was some stuff. Look, well, we didn't even. We kind of even like with Tiana, right? There was even there's a restaurant coming apparently, and there's a new kind of chic boutique coming for New Orleans Square. Like there's even stuff. More stuff with that. There's a whole bunch of film stuff for sure, a whole bunch of Disney Plus stuff, and there's a lot here, and it's going to take many, I think, subsequent shows to actually cover it all. Yeah. So definitely keep watching, folks. Also, too, I believe Valiant Renegade's going to have a Sunday stream where I guess he asked that pollster that came up with that did that poll that we recently highlighted on the show, and he contacted them for the very same reasons that I kind of had my was a little bit. Let's say my hesitancy regarding it, right? Whereas the crosstabs, right? I wanted to see like a fuller breakdown. I guess Valiant Renegade contacted them specifically on those points, and is waiting to hear back from them, which might actually be featured as part of his show. So that will be kind of very interesting to get the deeper information. Hey, can 100%. We break this down by age? Can we break this down by gender? Can we break this down by race and all those kind of things? I think those are very, very informative metrics that could be used, and something that the Disney company should probably take note of. But I thought that was very interesting. We can get into that if he goes into that. Obviously, the Barks panel is tomorrow. That's going to be huge. That's going to be real big. Both what's featured and both what's not featured.
Yes.
It's good. They're going to be stories, folks. So you definitely want to hit that subscribe button down below, because I'm sure we'll be doing a host of videos. Maybe not necessarily initially, as George and I are going to be out, but as we kind of get through it, trust me, we will have tons of content, tons of discussions with a whole range of people. I know Theme Park Wizard wants to talk to us. I know Sean, I think, wants to talk to us. Ashton wants to talk to us, So we'll be doing all kinds of stuff with a bunch of our friends. And definitely subscribe to this video, like this video if you like it, and you know, if you want us to feature anything about this expo, hey, include it in the comments. Tell us. We will absolutely make that a part of a segment on an upcoming show. Yeah,
absolutely, and express, you know, your thoughts on everything. Yeah, everything we talked about today, or even what we didn't talk about today. Like Dre said, put it in the comments down below, and it's gonna be an interesting day tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is Dre's last show for a little while. You're going on vacation, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah, I'll be bringing my equipment with me. So OG, if you know you want to go ahead and contact me, want to set something up, we absolutely will be able to do that, at least on some of those days. I want to go ahead and call in following the parks panel itself for a show. And we're still working that out, but I definitely want to get like initial thoughts there too. So
yes.
I usually we handle this, you know, back of house, but I really want to do that. So
no, we definitely. I forgot you're bringing your equipment. We had tomorrow. Let's try to do that. I don't want to make any promises because you're on vacation. So to the audience, but we'll try to work on that, you know, and see if we can get that done. What time is that panel tomorrow?
That panel tomorrow is going to be 10:30 Pacific, 10:30 to noon, if I'm not mistaken, Pacific time.
And it's like an hour and a half, right?
It's like an hour and a half, yeah. So yeah, if we can do something afterwards, we'll talk about it after the show. But
yeah, let me know. And like I said, you're on vacation, so I don't want you to, you know. So that's why we'll keep it fluid. Like maybe not. We don't know yet, but we're gonna try. Basically,
yeah.
Where we're at with it. But
right, it's like I said, it's a fluid situation. That's why we want to keep it fluid. But trust me, we will have coverage, folks. Believe me.
Yep, 100%. Well, thank you, brother, for coming on. If you could let everybody know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Hey, best place to find me is going to be at Vash Sky. It's right down there. Just go ahead and type it in. Like I said, we're doing a giveaway at 1,000 followers, and we're so close. We're like 7 away. So please go ahead. If you could follow that, and that might be part of the giveaway. We might do a little thing where, hey, we pick out somebody from, you know, like a commenter or something, matched up with a follower on Twitter, and match those things. So definitely, you want to definitely follow for that. I don't want to give too much away, but that's kind of what I'm thinking in my head. Anyway, go ahead, put it right there. You know, type that in Twitter, follow it right there. And if you want to go ahead and see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now on Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
There's no turning back.
I guess there is no turning back now.
and basically, once he hits 1,000, is basically what Dre is saying is that we will be giving away a 5-night all-inclusive Disney cruise.
You better not. You better not do this. Do not do that,
sir. I'm just kidding. We are not serious.
No. But it'll be something special. I think it'll be something pretty good.
Yep. Well, Dre, thank you, brother, as always, for coming on. Thank you all for watching. D23 weekend in full swing. It has been quite the wild ride. Tomorrow's going to get even more wild. Crazy, crazy times we are living in. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye now.